Hello, hello. We are just, or I am just refreshing everything here. Don't mind me. There we go. I'm just trying to get everything all squared away. All right, so it is March the 3rd. We are going to go ahead and get some things ready here to plant corn. There we go. All right. Sorry about that. In order for me to have a chat window open, I have to have my phone open. I'm still streaming kind of on the fly with my services here. So, let's go ahead. We're gonna start. You can see spring is in the air. We have got warm weather to plant our corn. So tomorrow we'll initiate April. And because April will start the corn planting season, we're going to go ahead and get some things ready today. So feed corn is kind of the first priority that we're going to deal with here. I'm just getting my headphones situated with my volume. Mute out the soundbar on my TV. I broadcast from the TV. Happy Memorial Day weekend to all you. Hope that the observance goes with the solemn kind of duty that we have as Americans to remember it. And for those of you that are not from America, welcome into the stream anyway. I hope you understand kind of the importance of why we observe Memorial Day. Alright, so kind of the first job on the farm today is, or kind of the last job on the farm today, is to get our nurse trailer actually pulled out from the shop here. You can see we've got an Unverth seed runner on there, and I think we're going to yeah, there's already seeds in it. So we're going to get some more seeds for that, and we're going to fill up these tanks. We're also going to get some fluid, we're going to get some pallets with some fluid as well. I won't worry about that right now. But yeah, Frankenmuth, March the 3rd. We have 3-day months set on this. So you're looking at 9-day seasons. So we are in the midst of the first month of spring here. Frankenmuth is located in the middle of Michigan, so it wouldn't be unheard of for them to have some springish sort of weather going on. We don't have the Great Lakes to kind of inspire extra snow. And the dairy farm is doing well. We've got a couple months left here before we've got any sort of births going on with the cattle. So we don't have a whole lot to really worry about just yet with feeding them. The concern is that I just don't have enough feed right now, and so we'll kind of oversaturate the feed today. Alright, so we're going to go ahead, we'll break out. I'm just going to call it what it is. We're going to break out the Mustang. We're going to take the Mustang over to don't get to take the Lizard Road Rage, is what it's called in game. We're just gonna call it what it is. It's a Mustang. This is the stupidest mod I think I've ever downloaded, and not because the mod creator's stupid for creating it, but just because it's the least useful of all the things. You know, I've got a farm truck in there. This an F1000 pickup, and I could easily take that and use that as a work vehicle. We're currently running 3 pickups, a car, 2 UTVs on the farm here. We're going to take this over to the grain elevator and grain mill. And we're going to pick up the tractor trailer truck and leave this parked down there. See, I don't mind leaving this parked down at the site. Just zoom there a little. Frankenmuth, I love this map. I really do. As far as Americana maps, this is really kind of a sleeping giant, if you will. You don't really know what you're getting until you start playing on it. The weather patterns have been fantastic so far. I think I mentioned in the first stream just how impressed with winter I really was. And of course, we've seen all these facilities. The grain elevator, the grain silos here will be getting kind of their first dose, the grain bins. Alright. And you can see our first dose of grain is coming out here. So you can see the pallet's got 5,000 liters to it. I do have the mod on here that doubles the pallet size, or the literage size. That is always a plus. Alright, let's get into the Phoenix here. Just gonna leave the trailer, because we're gonna use the nurse trailer. We need to get seed, and we need to get fertilizer rigged up on our trailer. As you can see, it's noon time here on March the 3rd, middle of the day. Our hayfields will actually ripen at the same time that we have planting going on. So April the 1st is probably going to be filled with our first cuttings, and we're probably going to shift gears and try to plant. We'll definitely be planting the seed corn beforehand. Maybe what I'll do is, depending on the amount of time I have, the first day will be for planting the 2 feed corn lots that I need to get into place, and then maybe... Well, no, I think we're going all corn this year. I was gonna do a batch of soybean, but it just seems like corn is the way that we're gonna handle it. So we've got some winter wheat. We've got a couple of fields of winter wheat. We're just gonna go ahead and plant corn crops. I'm gonna zoom on in here. Shut off the lights for now. Okay. So we need to get this small trailer out of the way, so just shut that off for now. So we're gonna do feed corn lots. I have the flatbed hooked up in case we need to use that for anything. Got our outdoor patio already set up. Yeah, we're kind of living the dream here. Farmers spend as much time outside as possible. Like I've mentioned before, I live in the state of Maine, and my job takes me outside and out through the rural areas quite a lot this week, or quite a lot every week. But this week I had the rare opportunity to see something that you don't see a whole lot of, and we had the first hay cuttings baled. So it's a little late compared to, say, like Pennsylvania, a little early compared to some spots in Canada. Just need to get that trailer out of the way. You know, but it was what it was, so we can't say too much there. So I'm gonna fill up these nurse trailers. Actually, I'm gonna fill up the tanks before we go on the nurse trailer. We're going to take the opportunity to put a couple of fertilizer pallets here. Now, the reason that I'm going to do that is the exact rate tanks on the RX-8, unfortunately, for as detailed as that is, it only takes a fill-up by the pallets. Don't ask me what the deal with that is. I have no idea. But for whatever reason, trying to fill up from a trailer or even one of those liquid silos like we have on the farm here, that does not work. go. Just gonna pull this out to the best of our ability. Now, the one thing we want to try to do is avoid the wheat crop here. So we're gonna see. Probably get a snappier turn out of it by just backing it out of here. And that's tipped it a little there. I caught on. There was some clearance there, but apparently I was clipping. Okay, now we can straighten out the trailers. Alright, so that's maybe a hiccup I need to correct. So we'll think about that when we're God damn dog, get out of the way. I apologize for any of you that, you know, consider that swearing. Okay, so each one of these works as an independent vehicle almost. Now, the Unverth you'd expect to have to turn on the little engine, because that's what it takes to run the whole mechanism. But here I have to jump into the tank, and I have to start filling. So we're going to sit here while it fills. Now, normally you'd have, you'd have a pump system halfway down the trailer. It would be like a water pump with its own motor. You'd have to mix water and components in a little hopper that connects to it. That way you're getting the right liquid balance. We don't have that on this. It's not to say that that won't come down the road with, say, another mod, or even with the same modder kind of making some adjustments. But for now, this is what we've got. So we're filling off of the liquid fertilizer silo here. There's a measurement line. Unfortunately, that doesn't have a little bobber or anything like that. So we're just filling up the first tank. We're doing this March the 3rd, so we don't have any issues. Obviously, the planter has more than one. It has more than one option as far as the fertilizer applying goes. Okay, so that tank is now full. We're going to get this tank next, and the great thing is if we don't use it, we can haul it back here and we can offload it into this fertilizer tank. We have 147,000 liters sitting in there as it is, so I mean it's not a problem. But we're going to have to go down to the store and we're going to have to fill up the seed hopper and get a couple fertilizer containers while we're at it. I mean, I think I could offload set up a couple, but I'd rather just do it this way, honestly. And I like this. This is a nice setup. This makes it so you can make any trailer a nurse trailer. Okay, let's jump in here, and there's a start filling option. So we're gonna start filling, and you can see from the fertilizer tank that it's still running out, so you can see there. At the end of this season, I think we're going to take... There's a couple of budgetary things that we want to get out of the way. I want to be able to buy a couple of augers to run grain with. We're going to need an auger down at the grain mill anyway. But I need an auger for here, and we need a silo for seeds. I don't want to have to depend on running down to the store every time we need seed pallets. The other thing we're going to look at today is the possibility of bulk filling some seed pallets. They have some actual permanent seed pallets that you can also put granular fertilizer or lime into. So we're going to look at all of our options today. I know I've got some clip through going on there, but honestly, you got to try to utilize every part of the trailer. Okay, so these tanks are now both full. They're going to be carrying quite a lot of sufficient weight. We've got 26,500 liters of fertilizer. Get out of the way. Farm dog never pays attention. Honestly, this is one of the cooler mods that they have out currently. So we're going to turn on our caution flashers. You know, traffic is what it is. It's a little reckless on these back roads. I wish we kind of lived on a country lane where the farmyard could, you know, we could make all the maneuverings onto a main road without such a small area to maneuver, but that's okay. That is the one drawback of Frankenmuth, is there's these drainage ditches. So it makes these roads, even though they're wide enough to carry the biggest equipment on, it makes the roads actually narrow up quite a bit when you have to go off to the side. Luckily we're in a tractor trailer, but like a big 4x4 tractor, this would be kind of a struggle. I think we're gonna have to get one more of these Demco trailers. Okay, we are cutting it close, but we are not cutting it terribly close. That's good. Excellent positioning. So we'll get things ready today. We'll use the time we have. I'm gonna use the time to rest and then kind of come back into it. I think we'll actually drive in down by the grain mill rather than the grocery store. And actually, we're going to use the oil plant here. This is actually a good thing. So this is the actual, this is the the standard grain mill right here. And we'll push ourselves forward here. There's less turns overall. The smart thing would be to use the standard lot, but got ourselves set up quite nice. See, there's another forklift here. I think that forklift is actually supposed to head over to the grain mill. We'll try to get a couple other things accomplished here today. Rushing ourselves. We're gonna get this truck packed. We're gonna actually get this truck packed down with the supplies that we need to. There we go. All right. I'm actually gonna shut the truck off for the moment. I always forget that I need to come back here to this tender. There are plenty of trailers out there that exist that will kind of let you know, in FS19 there are trailers that exist that are actual nurse trailers with tanks and pumps and all sorts of things designed. This is not one of them, so I have to keep reminding myself that this is equipment that's strapped down and works. Alright, so the first thing we need to do is run ourselves over to the dairy and get our telehandler that's down on this end. Yes, I have multiple telehandlers. I am going to be switching over. If you haven't seen it, or if you don't keep up to current events with Farming Simulator, the Kubota DLC is coming out, and so some of this equipment will be getting replaced with Kubota skid steers and things of that nature. That's just kind of the nature of the beast, if you will. Throw the door open and get some air for our operator. I really ought to put globes or flashers, caution lights, whatever you want to call them. I really ought to get to doing that. Forklift. I think the pallet fork is one of the #1 things that we have. I use this JCB between the dairy and here. Like I said, this is going to head over to the grain mill. That's where we're going to shuffle our our grains and stuff that come out of the mill directly into the storage warehouse that is over there as well. So that'll be good. So let's go into pallets. Yep. So we've got the Seed Pro boxes here. We're gonna actually buy a bunch of these before we stop today. You can see I can get cracked corn, get pallets of milk, pallets of eggs, grape pallets. I don't know if that's reusable, but it's a pallet of grapes that we do actually have. You can get anything you want. So it's a mod that I have that allows me to buy products. We are actually gonna make a big deal out of this. Now there is one thing that I do plan on doing within the next year or two, and that's actually treating and making our own seeds. So that's not something that we have planned for today, but it is something down the road that we are actually looking at. So let's see. I need to go to big bags, and we need to do, well, let's do 8 seeds. 8 seed big bags. Oop. Forgot that I was already on. So I do apologize for anybody who watches this. Obviously, there haven't been conversation interactions. There's about 4 or 5 of you that watch the videos on the regular, and I really do appreciate the views and the watches. It's a little depressing not to have necessarily an audience or a group of people to chat with in the chat. But we're making it work, and I thank you so much for coming on and just, watching the streams from the back. Alright, so let's see. Okay, looks like there are a couple of triggers that we can use. Good, good, good. There we go. This is actually one of my more favorite things to do. There's two areas in farming that I really like to do. There's 2 in Farming Sim that I really like to do on a regular basis. And one is the harvesting. That's like the culmination of all your hard work, and then the other is planting. This preparation the day before we start putting things into the ground is really kind of epic. We're gonna see how much. Obviously, we're gonna see how much we have as far as the corn goes. There we go. Wasn't sure. The unloading point can be a little tricky. Hey, Mom. Mama Duck, how are you? Oh my god, I do feel like a stranger. I hope you've been doing well. And of course, I say hi, and my controller completely cuts it off. How are you doing? I hope you're having a good holiday weekend so far. You're all right? How's the Sorry, I didn't respond to your Discord, and I feel like a crummy friend. That's just how my life is. But how's that situation with the extra kiddo going? Did that pan out? Did you end up bringing her into the fold, or what happened there? I haven't had a chance to catch up in a while. Oh, that's so great. I hope that works out for you. That's a hard line for anyone. I can remember all the stuff my parents had to go through to adopt, um, to adopt my brother and to just take care of my brother for the time that they did. It was crazy. I hope it works out for you. I really do. It's it's been insane for everybody, I guess. Well, I hope it goes well. If it's anything like the state of Maine is about adopting, then it's really stressful until you get through it, and then after that, it's nothing. So, but yeah, I can remember social workers coming through our house and telling my parents what they could and could not do, and having to go through extra like water testing and all this other stuff. And I mean, granted, right now with the forever chemical scare that the state of Maine is going through, I'm thankful that my parents went through all those water tests. But well, that's good. I'm glad, because let me tell you, it was stressful enough being a kid on the outside watching my parents go through this stuff. I can't imagine what it would be like for an adult. All right, well, there we go. Got the seed in there. Close that up. I hate that camera angle. Looks like we've got a couple bags down here. Yeah, locking up the bullets is easier. I know there's a couple of safety groups out there. Not that I really want to get into gun safety after the week in America that we've had, but there were some gun safety groups that were around here. They were actually local. They weren't like NRA sponsored or anything, but they were actually local. And they had things like trigger locks. So you could have the guns out without having to get a safe, but you could get a trigger lock for those guns that, you can actually run a trigger lock through. And we still have a couple of those around the house. But yeah, definitely locking up the ammo is a lot easier than than having to buy a gun safe. Holy crap, gun safes are expensive. I mean, everything's expensive right now, right? But I would not want to have to buy a gun safe. Okay, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. They have like the little trigger locks, and then the ones that my parents like, and I like it too because it's easier on my lever action, is the one that almost looks like a bike chain. It's got that coated like it's metal that's chained together. You know exactly what it will. Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't blame you just to have a couple in the house. Because that also helps if you have to transport any, because then you have a safe way of kind of locking access to them without having to, yeah, those are the ones you give out. Okay. I love those things because they do actually, you can actually double them up as a bike lock. I know I had one as a bike lock for a kid as a kid for a long time as well. And so how are how's everything else going in life right now? Obviously, I haven't talked to you in a while, regrettably so. I work for a company that's even open on Monday, so I don't get to like stay up tomorrow night and catch a stream. Oh no, oh no, I've gotta work on Monday. Might get out early, according to the boss man, but that's it. Hopefully you've got the day off, but you're in a pawn shop, so I don't know. Maybe you don't. I don't blame you. No, you've got a lot on your plate right now. I wish I hadn't taken such a long break, and now it's like my wifey has been, the wifey's been dealing a lot. You're closed. Well, that's good. At least you get Monday to just like take a breath, get some other things done, and then you don't have to worry about getting shorted a day. So you have an extra day where you can kind of clean and take a breath. Hopefully have a barbecue. Spend some time with the family. But yeah, the wife's been dealing with long-term neurological stuff with COVID. So she actually had to stop employment, so we're down to one income, and thank God for tax season. We filed late on purpose because we saw this kind of coming. And when you don't owe the federal government money, they don't tend to bother you about it. So she's taking a few months off, and we're trying to get the rental property. Finally, we're in the steps of finishing the clean out of that and getting things sold. Yeah, I hope she gets better soon too, but it's... At the same time, I would love to actually let her stay home because she's really been enjoying her time with the kid. And the kid's been getting a lot more development out of it than what she was getting before. Honestly, like only having basically 2 days at home was really kind of stressful on the kiddo as well. And it's nice to not necessarily have to put up with that. Like she's learning at leaps and bounds with Emily right there with her. Yeah. Oh, that's what I get. I look away at the screen for a second and I run into a building. So I had to I had to cancel subscriptions like Lightstream and things like that because I don't make, with the both of us working, I made enough money to do stupid silly things like that. And right now I just don't make enough to do stupid silly things, and I've gotta try to fight with my my HR at work to get me insurance benefits, which was something that she handled. So we're dealing with that stress. It's a life-changing event, so in the end it should work, but it's an uphill battle. So other than that, I mean, beyond that, the temperature's warm again, so we're not spending money on oil. Fuel prices are almost up to like $4.70 a gallon. It's kind of ridiculous right now. Not gonna lie. I will not be sad if that ever goes down again. Fuel does suck. Like, it's something like 60% of all people planning on buying a car now, their next car will be a electric vehicle, apparently. Oh my god, yeah. My truck takes like 125 now. I don't like to have this competition of outdoing you on that, but yeah, in order to fill my truck, it takes $125. Which means I don't fill it ever. I spend like $50 a week on fuel. I drive nowhere anymore. Okay, so we're gonna actually pull this into this lot over here. We got better luck with this. Oh, and you'll love this. So on top of all this other stuff that I had to give up that helped me with streaming, all of my save files for my game went corrupt. So I lost all those Let's Plays that I had started. So that's why between starting up again and like the last couple of streams I've had, I've only had like, the one. Yeah, I lost like everything. Everything got corrupted. The last game save helped like immensely with getting things straightened out. But it didn't save the save files. So that's why I'm doing a dairy farm on this, and I'm actually waiting for a mod map to come out that's in testing right now before I step up the next one. Ooh, I don't like when like consoles go haywire. I don't mind, like it's disappointing that I had to save completely, like two saves, as well as all my other gameplay that I had without streams. It went haywire and shit the bed. So that is really disappointing. But when the console itself just like basically self-destructs, that is so difficult. I couldn't even tell you how to get out of, if a safe mode came onto the Xbox, I couldn't even tell you how to get out of that. Oh, where did I leave the... This is great. I don't know where I left the pallet forks for this. Let me check that real quick. Make sure I still have... Okay, I do still have 2 pallet forks. Yeah, when a console goes stupid, as you said, I like that, by the way. I'm gonna use that from time to time. When a console goes stupid, it's so hard. Oh, there it is. I need to get those liquid fertilizer tanks off of there. It's okay when it's stressful and it's annoying when a game save goes crazy, but when a console goes crazy, I can't even imagine. It's like both of our TVs do some weird stuff, but it's like I'll never be able to afford a TV, so it better not just like crap out altogether now, because I am on a... I was before, but I'm on like a super limited income now. I can't even think about like purchasing something like that down the road, so you know, it's one of those things. You just kind of hope it keeps working. Get these liquid pallets off of here. Leave the nursing trailer over here for now, although we can drive this into the field if we need to. I just want to get these 2 pallets off of there. And that might hit on the boom arm. So did you guys manage to avoid all that terrible wind, or did that hit your area? Yeah, when your kiddo starts eating everything, that's especially with the way inflation's going on those things right now. It's like, oh my god, can I survive this? Oh. Yeah, so I will be happy if Emily can get herself straightened out enough to get herself into another job, but at the same time, it's been nice to have her at home. She hasn't been able to accomplish much around the house, but just the time with the kid, like, has been really important. Keep forgetting I gotta start the small engine on that. Okay, so that's popped out. Tanks are full. Well, I'm glad it stuck to a little rain. Honestly, it's there's some farming YouTubers that I watch. One in Michigan, and he had like a giant. He's got one of those like $1 million grain bin setups, and he like lost part of the bin. He had a shed, which was this big shed. It kind of looked like one of these. It's completely gone. It drove like a beam down through the combine cab and completely messed up one of his combines. So I get a little worried for everybody I know that lives in those zones that get a lot of the rain and wind. Yeah, that is rough, you know, because like the used farm equipment market for things that are like 20 years old, is crazy. And I mean, I saw the other day a tractor that came out and was built in the 70s. It was like 77, 78. Sold for $45,000 the other day. A field working tractor. That's just like insane to think that like you can't even afford used equipment, let alone like the real deal. Like this modern stuff right here, this planter and this tractor would be impossible, even bare bones. But I'm glad to hear that you guys didn't get too much of that wind. And I hope the rain didn't cause too much hassle for you. I know you live near a river, if I recall right. Okay. I'll be here. I'm not going away for a while. So we're just gonna back this right over. There we go. All right, right in. Look at that. It automatically goes. I like that. I'm actually quite impressed with that. I would like that to be farther up, but that Demco platform is nice enough as it is. I don't know. I'm probably going to have to switch over to the other seed tank here and readjust the trailer. Yeah. Okay. So let's go ahead. Let's pipe out seeds 2. Huh. I don't think that's doing anything. That's interesting. Okay, so it says I've got 87% seeds. So I need to try to... There it goes. It triggered it for a second. It does not. I haven't used this planter yet, so I don't know if this is the planter or the Unverth that is being such a pain in the butt about this. But I guess I gotta be spot on, which is okay. I just, for some reason, I can't get it spot on tonight. It's too bad we don't have the seed conveyors like we do on the DB here. I would love to get the seed conveyor on the back, so we would just have to technically do this with the auger instead of... Wow, that's terrible. Sorry, I didn't realize I was going to spend 5 minutes trying to trigger the seed fill here. I saw it move for a second, so it's not like it won't trigger. Maybe if I pull it forward. I just have trouble believing I've got to literally put it right there. Holy schmoly. Okay. So that's right where it should be. So we've still got half of a seed tender here. And you can see as you pull off, it's almost like it adjusts it just enough into it. Half tempted to dump this into an auger cart. Look at how spot on that is. I can't get that to work. I do not know what's going on with that. My wife has been playing the dickens out of Sims on her computer lately. That's been her thing this week. So I can understand just chilling. I'm trying to fill this darn cedar up, and yeah. Something's up with the trigger on it all of a sudden. It filled it to 87% and now won't fill any more seed. Oh my god. I cannot believe this thing. Alright, let's try something else here. Okay. Oh, oh. There we go. Holy moly, that was that was actually terrible. I will not lie. So I'm going to leave that like so, and I'll stop the engine on that little seed tender. So that's done. That's a bit temperamental, I'm not going to lie. Holy moly. Okay, so let's close up the covers on that, because we've got 100% seed now. And let's get ourselves... Okay, so I'm not sure how good the fertilizer tank's gonna be about this. I'm gonna start an engine pump. Oh, holy moly, listen to that. There's no engine or pump here, but it's like, it's like, oh, the fertilizer pumps would be on the nurse tanks. That's funny. I bet you... Wow, I still don't have... Oh, you know what? I bet this works like the DB ones did. I bet you I have to get the hose connection over by the back of the tractor. Close to this sucker. Because I've got... The reason I have fertilizer on the gauge there is I've got the... I've got the exact rate tanks, the saddle tanks on this, full already. But I don't have... I'm trying to figure out where the trigger is for this system. Because you have to find the trigger on the tanks. And you have to find a trigger... It's so difficult. I'm going to be honest and say that's the only thing that this new particular set of mods, I haven't had to use any of this equipment yet. So I'm literally learning how to do this on stream. So this is this This is great. I love when I run into this, because it's just like, okay, what can we do? Okay. So I'm about as against this trailer as I can be. And let's see. Okay. Not getting... Still not getting a fill trigger. Let's see. Okay, so the hose connections are accurate. So this one running across the 3-point hitch is the exact rate. That exact rate just funnels over. And you can see the seed counter is going on this, but nothing on the liquid. Now there is a hose connection for the liquid back here. And this is actually made to life. To actual scale. Okay, so the exact rate hookup is to the very back of the planter. So let's see what happens if I just back the rear of this trailer up. Not getting any triggers there. So let's back the rear of this up to the side of the tank. Huh, okay. Let's go ahead. I don't really want to do this, but let's go ahead. We'll enter the vehicle. I just don't know. I can't tell which one's actually on at this point. Okay, so we've got them both on. Now, the connection points to these tanks are right here. Wondering if I've got to get this to the midway point on the trailer. Okay, so this is why you do these the day before you can actually plant. Okay. I have no idea what's going on with this. I wonder if this is... See, the problem with the exact rate tanks on the back of the tractor right now are the fact that they only fill via these. And you can see I've got a refill trigger option coming up on the seat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to disconnect the 8RX. You can see I've still got the exact rate tank fluid count in there. That's what these big black tanks are. Just gonna hook up the 4440 for a second. I know that doesn't have enough horses to actually operate the planter. But if this is in fact the case, and I can't do this with anything but the pallets over there, that would be good to know, just because I'll shift the liquid back over to the silo. Let's find out. Obviously, this has got enough weight on the front to carry this thing folded. Let's see. Yep, no matter where I put that, that just doesn't want to go. And in fact, we're about to run into bigger problems. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an issue. Holy schmoly. Wow, I've got all the engines running on all these things. Let's just shut this stuff off. Oh. So this is the joy of farm sim when you're streaming. So the planter is officially fused into the trailer right there. It clipped through and it's stuck. This is why you can't beat a live stream on this sort of thing, because this is ridiculous. Oh. And this is also why you should... why you should practice this stuff. Okay. Let's go ahead. I'm going to disconnect the planter. And what I'm actually going to do at this point is I'm going to reset that planter. I'm hoping that I will see the planter. There we go. Alright, so that should have straightened out the stuff on the Demco trailer. But that also tells me now that even though I can have the nurse trailer, I should go ahead and set myself up with a better arrangement when it comes to the fertilizer. I was hoping to run everything out of that silo, but obviously that's not going to be the greatest thing ever. So we're just going to pop into this 8RX and we're going to go down to the silo. We're going to go down to the store after I run into the red car here. And, wow, I'm just having a good night. Yeah. So, like I was saying before at the beginning of the stream, the Kubota DLC is coming out the end of June. Kubota is a small to medium tractor provider within Japan that provides things across the world. If you look up their equipment, they do have things like rice combines, which are wicked cool. They run off of crawler tracks, and they can actually, run into the floodplains and all of that. But the important thing is, people with dairy farms and smaller farms will be able to get a hold of some small to medium orange equipment. I thought that this was a long time coming, just simply because we had Versatile as a licensed brand now. And Versatile builds the larger tractors for Kubota. And by larger, I of course mean like their 200 horse, which is a medium tractor by all designation. Granted, I see like 200 horse tractors all the time from the 70s, and they largely, outpace my size out on the road. Kind of scary to share a road with tractors that big, to be honest. And I do it on a regular basis now that I drive in rural areas to deliver auto parts. That's what I work in, is the auto parts industry. But yeah, so we are just running along. Oh, so Mama Duck, you're playing Sims. You got any new challenges or anything planned on it, or just using it at this point as kind of a coping mechanism to escape? I would imagine you're using it the same way that I'm using streaming this or playing this. It's just kind of a coping mechanism at this point. Just building. Yeah. My wife spends hours building. That's the thing that she loves about those. So I can't blame you at all. And just like that, all the seed is gone. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to refill this down here. Yeah. No, I hear you. I was going to clean today. Only today is like my first day off of the week. That's how it always goes. And I just couldn't get out of my own way today. I can neither claim to have cleaned all day, nor can I claim to have done anything all day. Alright. Let's go ahead, we'll get a few of these Seed Pro boxes. Now these Pro boxes are reusable. This is not the first thing that we're seeing for reusable, but with the pallet limits, you can understand why people have stayed away from these bits. This is typically how seed actually comes into being. And because I had to reset that whole thing, unfortunately, when you reset something that's filled with a product, I was kind of hoping it wouldn't be the case with this planter, but when you do, you lose the product inside. So this is... I haven't gotten a look at the bottom of these yet. Yeah, you can see the trap door right there. There's a handle on the side, basically for opening that up, and that's actually what a lot of farmers will use when they get going with planting, is they have these permanent boxes. Now, normally the hybrid boxes will either go or they'll have them refilled. And they put different types of seed in it, and they go through the process of putting seed in different lots. But as you can see, it's nice. It's a fill bin. We're going to use it. We're actually going to use one of these because it will be easier in the long run when we start producing our own seed. And that's actually something we're going to start doing probably on this Let's Play. It's a guarantee on Stone Valley, which was the map we're waiting on at this point. So get these boxes. As you can see, 1,584 liters. When we start producing our own seed, we're probably going to have it located in a smooth, they call a smooth walled silo. It's just something that you use to store this type of thing in, but it's gonna be cool to actually set up and create our own. And once again, this is why we set it up all day, or this is why we do this the day before, so that our initial setup will not be hindered. I think we're going to end up using all these seed boxes, which is okay, because I think we're going to use the big bags to fill the boxes. Lucky, we'll start putting these through. I think at the end of this year we'll probably have enough. I think we have enough fields to really kind of to put in a little more effort. One of the things that we do have planned is we do have planned to plant some poplar rows on a couple fields, because we're going to get our own bio burner set up on the farm. So the bio burner will burn through. Wow, okay, that's good. The bio will burn through wood chips, and it's set up to heat a few buildings. So we'll have it set up for our farmyard, the area around our house, our farmhouse, and the workshop, and a few of those others. That's good there. Let's go ahead. I don't think there's an option to open. Yeah, just opening and closing the seed bin there. Okay, let's see how far 2,000 meters will get us. Oh. Ran into the back of the freaking forklift. So that's not going to trigger out of there until I actually get into the cab of the tractor. Okay, it says refill seeder. There we go. So we're getting the fertilizer put in. Fertilizer will now be a easier deal because we have precision farming DLC that came out as well as the other patches. So it makes things like spreading lime and fertilizer a bit easier because you get the exact rate. One of the more interesting features of precision farming that came along this time is what we call exact rate seeding. So, depending on the soil, will depend on the concentration of the amount of seeds that you want to put into the ground into that soil in order for the product that you're hoping on growing to be successful. So the concentration of seeds for corn, for example, will be higher in, let's say, silty clay than it would be in regular silty soil. Because it doesn't succeed or grow as well in that particular soil type, it has to boost the amount of seeds being put into the ground. Variable seed rate is something that is not... Please don't get... Variable seed rate is not something super common in older vehicles. I am not dealing with this again. I am not dealing with this again. I just got this stupid thing filled. There. I thought I got the tractor wedged. That describes my day in a nutshell. I try to get something accomplished and it just blows up in my face today. And the 1775 NT planter is easier to move around than the Seeds Hawk air drill. Yeah, leave it to me to clip the trailer into something else. Luckily we know how to deal with that one a little easier. Okay, so we're gonna get this back over to the farm. It's only 3 in the afternoon in game, so I think I'm gonna get the flatbed down here and load up on a couple of other things that we need. For the fertilizer, what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the exact rate or the spot sprayer that I use for herbicide spraying, and we'll just fill that up because that can also be filled with liquid fertilizer, and we'll unload it so that we have pallets spawn in. It's not necessarily the cleanest way to do it, but it's definitely, you'll have to forgive me, I'm getting a drink. It's definitely going to be the easiest way to handle it for now. Ugh, okay. Let's turn on the strobes here. You can barely see them. That's exactly how those are. They're really bright in dark. I love how the traffic stops when something's beside it. Like, say, in another lane. It's my only gripe so far about this map. See, we've got a big field here. We've got a couple smaller fields over in this lot. The field across the street that you can see, field 40 on the map there that we own, that will be a poplar field. And there's another small one up the road to the right that we're also going to turn into a poplar field. Okay, hang on, I've got to adjust my headset here. Ooh. Alright, there we go. I wear a hat to keep my hair out of my eyes. I wear it with the headset for whatever reason. It's supposed to be. So I'm having to take the hat off midstream. It's seasonably warm. Been a couple of weekends of straight up 80-degree weather, and that's highly unusual for us. Normally we get our first warm day, over the weekend. This weekend, Memorial Weekend, is typically when we get our hot weather in. So yeah, it's a bit warm in here tonight. All right, let's get turned into here. You can see I have a giant silo tank there for fertilizer, so we really don't need to be buying extra tanks of fertilizer here. This is the more advanced hardware, so I actually keep it all in the same lane in this barn. This is a nice pull-through barn. At our 7810 here. Saw one of these the other day with regular wide tires on, hauling a manure spreader. It was all-wheel drive, and I can tell you that none of the in-game models do the size of this thing any justice. This thing is actually a very big tractor. Now this is big tractor in-game and out of game. Can't wait to use this sucker. Alright. So that does it for getting the seeder ready to go. What we're going to do is we're going to fill up this trailer with some seed pallets, like you saw. That'll kind of be the last thing that we have to get handled for today. Turn on the flashers here. Nice strobes on this truck. Put this down to the store. We'll get it loaded up. Of course, this has a separate diesel tank in the closed compartment, so we'll be able to refuel any tractors or combines in the field. A little different than my first year here. My first year on the farm was a bit different. Normally, we start the streams at exactly the same time that you would start a new farm. Obviously, due to the corruption issues that I have with files, I was just kind of fed up, so I played the game for myself. And then I decided to start streaming this, obviously last stream. We started It's going to be kind of sporadic, just like it has been all along. Even when Stone Valley comes in, I don't think I'm going to have a solid schedule in place. Unfortunately, I just don't think life really allows for it. Normally, I would stream tomorrow rather than streaming tonight, just to give myself a little more time to breathe. I wouldn't do anything on Saturday, being my first day off for the weekend. Because I pull anywhere between 40 to 50 hours a week, so I'm tired at the end of the week. Okay. So, got a few empties here. We're gonna start by actually filling up the empties. Some big bags. Like I said, with any luck, we'll be producing so much corn and everything else that we'll be able to go ahead and keep some of this tucked to the side to create seeds. As crazy as that sounds, it's easier to kind of fill up these boxes with seeds. Now, nothing is crop specific, as far as I know. So we'll probably take some literage of wheat. And we'll take some literage of corn. We'll make a batch of seeds both ways, just to see what that does. Sorry, excuse the yawning. Let's get the two on each row. Only disadvantage of having a telehandler on an articulating frame like this is when you stop. Catching something. Maybe I'll use the forklift. I do need to use the telehandler to actually fill the pallets. I don't have the luxury of. Forklift won't do the angles or width that I need for the big bags to hold over pallets, so we'll at least have to use them for the pallets. Anyway, tomorrow's supposed to be our sunny day of the week, so of course the thing I'll be doing tomorrow all day will be setting up and mowing the lawn for the first time. We try to keep the lawns around here alone. It's kind of a thing actually in Maine. We try to leave the lawns alone because the lawns provide flowers and other things used for, for plant vegetation. And that vegetation, in the case of the flowers, will mean that bees will actually have food. Once you get to the point in the year where the trees give off the flower buds and they shift their work to pollinizing tree flowers as well as pollinizing those plants that are in that reproductive state, then we don't have to worry about it anymore. But the trees just kind of bloomed at the beginning of this last week. Kind of end of last weekend, beginning of this week. So with those trees in bloom now, it means that we can safely cut grass and flowers, and still have vegetation to collect nectar from, as well as to pollinize. It makes it a little difficult with like the tick population here. Ticks being my biggest annoyance of the outdoors, but it definitely guarantees the security of bees. And without bees and pollination, you really don't have anything to fall back on. Get these pallets filled up. As you can see, it helps to get these pallets filled up. I think we're gonna do. I think we're gonna do 3 or 4. We may just run it from an auger the whole time. Yeah, you guys have things like the Lone Star tick. We have deer and dog ticks so far. Those are ours, but I would not want to have something like the Lone Star tick. That's just there's a lot of different diseases, and that's really kind of the problem. I guess they have a vaccine that they're working on for Lyme disease, which, to be fair, companies were working on Lyme disease vaccines before the pandemic hit. So it was something where you could easily, see a vaccine coming, and that way ticks would not be as big of a threat. But obviously with the pandemic coming, the vaccine focus and the scientific research focus changed to, solutions for that. So, yeah, ticks are really bad. One of the things that you can do if you know you're going to be outside, that a lot of people do, at least in the Northeast, and I'm sure they do it elsewhere, probably even where you are. But you take duct tape and you wrap it around your ankle face out, and you just go, halfway up your ankle, and it actually catches the ticks. Well, halfway up your calf. I'm sorry, halfway up your ankle. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it'll actually help you because ticks are really bad between the months of May and June, and then as the weather dries out, it levels out a little here. Not to say you can't still get them easily, but it wasn't that way when I was a young kid. But if you do that, it's scary just how many you find on the strips of duct tape. And they say part of the reason that we have it so bad up here now is because we don't get the length of winters that we used to, and they're not as cold as they used to be. So we don't have, winter to kind of prevent these things, which means things like fire ants get closer and closer every year as they creep up the East Coast as well. So, but yeah, that's one thing that you can do is just wrap duct tape halfway up your calf, facing out, and the adhesive actually keeps them from going anywhere. All right. I will say I am impressed with modders that are making these forklift mods, because they're making the rear of the chassis on these things heavy enough to handle the loads. I mean, granted, like 1,500 liters of seed is not really the heaviest it gets, but I've picked up some really heavy crap with this particular forklift model, and it's been fairly simple to do so. But we're gonna put these pallets on the trailer here and transport those back. We'll keep them in the shed for the night and forever how long. And as we need to refill the seed tender, I guess, as we need to refill that, we'll go ahead and do that. But a lot of times farmers will buy hybrid variants of corn, soybean, a lot of various other a lot of various other crops can come in containers like this. It's not usual for a farmer to make their own seed or to keep them, in silos necessarily, unless they're producing like literally enough to the point where they had to do something and they started their own like seed production. You can see stuff like that. You're not gonna see it a whole lot, especially here in the States. That stuff just doesn't happen. Okay, what is going on here? Do I need to tip that forward more? Okay, that's just not sliding out of there. Alright, let's go to... Okay, we're going to try to pull that pallet off. That pallet is... that pallet is just difficult. Holy schmoly. I think we might have hooked the forks in there at the same time, though. I'm just running into every hiccup under the sun today. Okay, I think it's that fork that's doing it. We're gonna... or that strap that's doing it. Let's see if we can back this. Nope, still can't. And this is okay. This is actually... the thing that I like about this is this will show you the struggles of what it's like to put yourself into a situation where you're using... where you're using these mods. There we go. And the struggles with mods like this are real. I mean, that's just a reality of what happens. You can't always make a perfect mod. They test these, obviously. I'm on console, so they don't let anything go through that would make your game self-destruct or anything like that. There are conflicts out there. You can still have mod conflicts and things like that. It's very rare, though, with the amount of testing. But it is definitely possible to still have that. So just something to keep in mind. Okay. So we need to tilt that forward a bit more, I guess, to level it out. There we go. For the sake of role-playing, this would definitely be a mod to have, as the Pioneer boxes. I like these just because these show a sense of realism. If you go into a fairly large shed right before planting season, these are typically what you're going to come across. You're not going to come across the tractors. You're not going to come across the equipment. You're going to come across the seed. The bags, yes, that's a real thing. You will find bags. Farmers still do order it. Feed corn especially will come in bags for their seed because it's not necessarily as highbrow as some of the other seed types. And I almost just pulled, or I almost pushed. God, I can't even come up with the right word. I almost pushed those pallets off the other side of the trailer on the front here. So we're going to pack this in. I think we're going to do a full set of 8 of these. So I need to buy 3 more of these pallets. And we'll have a set of 8 on this. This is why we have this 20-foot trailer. Pallets here. Now, it looks like they even take up slot counts on pallets. Funny enough, these boxes have a lot of detail on them. They're actually from Pioneer Seed. And they do show a hybrid on the side. I'm gonna get a good look at this actually. So, I don't know how well this actually goes for you, but I do have to say, one thing that I'm impressed on, and I'm looking at one of the screens here to see this on the broadcast. One of the things that happens a lot of the times is things are real pixelated when you get up next to them. It's like this TM320S. That actually looks a little pixelated, especially with the JCB on the inside. Even that JCB. When you come up on these, and these are not created by Giants, these are created by a modder. If you come right down here to the mod packs. Let's see if I can find it in here. You see all the John Deere equipment I have that we're not using yet. New Holland stuff. I'm working on something. But yeah, you got the Pro Box here. Unfortunately, it doesn't give me the modder. But anyway, the clarity on this label. This is insane. I can't get this much clarity out of a lot of the nicer made models that Giants themselves puts together. So kudos to the modder on the labels for these pioneer seeds. I love that. I really do. So we'll get the seed box loaded up. A lot of the work over, like I said, the month of April that we're about to dive into in-game is going to be, planting and getting our first hay off the ground. I have to take a look at the weather in the system to see when the best day to do hay is going to be. Unlucky and lucky at the same time, because it makes it easier to balance things. It doesn't make it more realistic, but it makes it easier to balance things. Is the fact that the only thing you have to do to cure hay in game, and in this version of Seasons, is to simply ted it, so we can easily get through, because we have a tedder that actually teds and windrows together. Kind of a nice little whoop-de-doo. Hoping to get some corn done tonight, though. I'm going to try to get at least the first field of corn into the ground. And I think I'm actually going to start with a field that's right next to the cattle barn. Because on the far end of that yard, we have the second wheat field, which is a fairly small wheat field. And next to that, we have the grass field. It's on the far end. We have 3 different hay fields. Number 10 is the largest. We have that strip that we replowed and planted over the winter, the late fall months, and then we of course have the other grass field over near the baseball stadium on the far end of the map, which we've actually kept. We're gonna see how much food the cattle, like I said, there's a lot of births that happen within the next 4 or 5 months on the animal husbandry side of things. So we're going to see exactly how much feed they start taking up at that point, and kind of make our assessment of whether we have too many fields devoted to food. If they become too devoted to food, we're going to be switching over probably to oil production. We'll probably do some sunflower. We'll probably do some canola. And the other thing that we're probably going to do is we're probably going to do some soybean fields. What we want to do this year is we want to go ahead and fill that bunk. And so that's a 6 million liter. That's a 6 million liter bunk that we've got. So it's gonna fill, and it's gonna stay full for a long time. So the good news is we've got the seed pallet strapped down, the trailer folded up, everything has been loaded in. We've got the planter loaded. We have a plan for fertilizer at this point. So we're just, it's 4:30 in the afternoon in-game. What I would say would be early spring. So let's go ahead and let's get the truck back to the farmyard. We'll go from there. A lot of stuff going down right now. Hopefully our July season will be something that I'll be able to fill our combine doing some wheat, some auger wagons and other things. Everybody likes to see that sort of stuff. Silage harvest in September. There's going to be a lot of feed corn. Then, of course, if we use too much of that for feed corn, we'll go ahead and we'll probably start a biogas plant. Or maybe we'll just sell the silage. As feed to the animal vendor. Wow, I stopped dead in my tracks with that sentence. I haven't been able to wake up today. And today, this weekend, really needs to be about handling things outside. Today was very stormy and very overcast, and my wife says that I'm solar powered and nothing ever gets done on a cloudy day. I think that accounts for a lot of mammals and a lot of people. But she does have so there we go. We've got seeds in the bank here. So we're going to pull them into the rear shed here. We're just going to keep them in here because we need this marked. We're not going to need a Demco wagon. Not going to need that Demco wagon till July when we start harvesting wheat. This is kind of our primary wagon for getting the wheat off the field into the trailer truck. Alright. And I haven't made up my mind yet, but I may actually scrap the tractor-trailer truck that we have for a more realistic Mack truck. It's hard to say. I don't want to really move into a lot of the equipment that we're going to be using for the Stone Valley playthrough, but at the same time, I would like to be able to move into it just simply because I like more realistic gear if I'm going to be playing a lot of Farm Sim. Just checking the time there. I'm going to probably go for a little bit longer, see how my energy levels go. So we've got a stave silo. We'll actually be demolishing this and getting this out of the way. It's got 169,000 liters left of silage in there. One of our first jobs tomorrow morning will be to get some cow feed into some total mixed ration into these barns. So we'll be using up some of that silage. Or we've got silage being generated over here. This is the great thing about productions now. We've finally been able to add silos into the mix. We're actually going to leave this silo. I was debating just kind of demolishing this, but honestly, I want to keep this for now. The primary reason behind it is I may not like the silage bunk in the end. I may decide to just start piling in silage for those. If it does happen, though, I'm going to have to seriously consider this stave silo comes in a pack, and one of them is a steel silo, which is a bit larger than this, and it has a similar chute system to that blue one over there. But we'll have to consider it because I noticed that the production time that it takes on this silo takes forever compared to the production time the stave silo took to create the silage. I still got the tractor trailer truck running. Just gonna shut that off and leave it. But I am considering replacing this with a Mack truck. There is a Mack that the same creator of this Phoenix, there's a Mack mod that's being worked on right now that would have very similar attachments to this Phoenix. I want to try to shift away from the TLX gear as best I can. So obviously there's some Lizard equipment that's direct copies of, you know, vehicles out there. We're probably going to shift over to those as soon as we get some useful ones. The brown Swiss seem awfully quiet. This is my small herd of brown Swiss. Very traditional cow. There is a dairy farm about a mile down the road, maybe 2 miles down the road at the most, that keeps Holsteins, but they have 4 or 5 of these brown Swiss that they keep on hand. And of course, we have the building over here with a bale shredder and storage compartment. This has got hay and straw in it, so we'll probably try to take the hay from there. The hay that we'll be pulling off of the fields, the official hay, not the silage, but the hay, will go into these wooden silos over here. So you can see I've already got a wagon here that had some hay in it. I just left it parked. But that actually does it. That does it for this day. We're going to go ahead. We're going to go into the house and progress the evening. You know, obviously, if we could plant a day early, we would. But you can't plant until the calendar says you can, so you got to kind of leave it. All right, Mama Duck. Well, thanks for stopping in all the same. I really do appreciate it. I hope you have a good night. Have fun with the grandbaby. You deserve it. And I'll talk to you when I talk to you next. Hopefully it won't be as long as the last time. But I do appreciate it. And it was great to talk to you. We've got to make that more of a habit. I'll try to keep up with you a little better on Discord starting this week. I'm really sorry. I'm not trying to ignore you, I promise. But you have a great night. Enjoy the grandbaby. Hope your daughter and her boyfriend feel better. I appreciate that. Alright, let's progress the night and then we'll get to planting some corn. Alright, so first things first, we're going to make the wake up time 5 a.m. because we've got to deal with the cows as well. So let's go ahead, let's get into 5 a.m. here. A little overnight rain, but nothing major. Let's get into our closet here. Change the suit up for the day. So we're going to do a couple of variations here. I like to put the black hat on with this. We also need a pair of gloves, although we need to select that color. Okay. We'll go down here, we'll get our traditional sunglasses on. There we go. So I got the John Deere jumpsuit. That's great for planting and messing around on the farm. European farmers that run big farming operations with contract businesses will often wear the jumpsuits. Okay. Mustang's still down at the grain mill, but we're going to go ahead and close this up. Welcome to April the 1st. So April the 1st is our time in our crop calendar in which oat, corn, soybeans, and sorghum can start the planting process. We're going to start planting today our corn. Maybe we'll do a sorghum crop just to produce seeds. But the first thing we want to do this morning, of course, is go across the street next door and start putting together some food and getting some other things cleared out. So let's go here first. Okay, so as of this morning, there's 12,000 liters of slurry. We're actually going to go into the management screen for our animals because it's just too difficult. So there's 3 months left before the 80 Holstein in this first barn that we're actually standing next to give birth. It's going to be important to really pay attention to that. So we've got 15,000 liters of milk and 12,000 liters of slurry, 14,000 liters of straw. So none of the stuff in that under conditions needs to be dealt with today. Food capacity, on the other hand, we have hay at 80% of the effectiveness or the hold, and then we have total mixed ration, which is 19,000 liters. So we want to get some TMR in there today, but everything else is good. Straw is good here. Total mixed ration is still up to 44,000. So we'll actually leave the total mixed ration, the straw, and the hay loan there. They've got enough to kind of back them up. They've got 4 months left till they give birth to calves. We are good on total mixed ration there for 1 more day. Slurry builds up. Straw always shows, well, it shows 0 liters today. So we're going to have to get some straw over there to start. So let's go ahead. We'll get into the 4440 here. Alright, get some lights on. Like I said, we're starting at 5 because we want to tend to all the animals before we leave. Obviously, not having any straw doesn't affect anything too terrible. But we do want to get the straw handled because we want these guys, even if it's a tiny, minuscule amount, we want these guys to be producing more. We want them to have comfortable bedding. I will say the homemade shed, which is what we're using as kind of a outbuilding for the Swiss Brown, those do not carry any extras to them, and putting down straw, typically you run into a situation where there isn't a whole lot of bedding actually going down, and it doesn't really show as much getting filled. So that is something to remain aware of. Okay, so we're going to start with 11,000 liters of straw. We want to get rid of this. We don't want any left when we go to make the ration. As you can see, this is a overfill point for you can see the straw literage going up. I should have probably paid better attention to the straw, but it's one of those things you never really, I don't pay attention to it as often anymore. FS22 does not really push or change anything. And oh my goodness, you can actually see straw coming into the building. You couldn't see this before. I don't know if there was an error due to there was a silo nearby that just looked like it got too close. Let's see. Oh my god, it's actually working. So this that straw bar was not working prior. That is phenomenal. That's actually working quite well now, and it's actually filling up the barn with bedding. So things are finally working. Let's see. 11,000 is a little over half. So we're actually going to run over. We're gonna put another 5,000 liters of straw in. You can see we've got good lighting on most of the facilities that we use. We're gonna put a little more, tad bit more straw into this. This is good. I like the fact that it's working. It didn't show bedding before, and it didn't really do much of anything beforehand. So the fact that it's now showing bedding, it's now showing as getting filled up. That to me shows that there is some progress going on somewhere in the coding. And I like this Robert, because this Robert doubles as a straw blower as well as a feed mixer. So you can see we're getting exactly what we want out of it now. We won't put any more straw after this in there, but that's just going to keep the cows a little happier. And hopefully that means that this manure storage will start jumping up a little more. I hate having straw in here and having it not show. It was just concrete before. I think the silo that we were using for hay was too close to this, and so it interfered with the trigger. Some of these silos I've noticed. Sorry about that. I will. Okay, so we're full up on straw. How much was left in the mixer? 540 liters. So one of the things that I did notice about some of the silo systems, as I was saying, before I lost my train of thought, shifted my foot, and disconnected my controller, is some of the silo triggers are a little wide. So the triggers pick up on things farther off than they used to. It's got a bigger blanketing effect than it used to. I'm gonna get the cows out of the way. Sorry, people, you're gonna have to watch me run over my own frickin' cows. So the plans this year, of course, are to get ourselves a new bioheating plant set up. It's going to be a teeny tiny burner that's going to run on wood chips. So we're going to get our first of the poplar planted at some time. I haven't even looked at the calendar to see when poplar can be planted. I think it's one of those things that can be planted pretty much. Yeah, so I can plant that through August. So we'll probably plant that sometime in June, right before the July harvesting season on wheat. Need some snow? Apparently snow doesn't melt when it comes out of the bucket. If it's been in the bucket all year round. Don't know what the deal with that is. Alright, let's mix some food. So we're going to leave this blue silo alone. But we are going to start the process of... I'm going to put some hay bales in there. We're still going to use up the hay bales before we try to use up the loose hay. I want to try to eliminate as many bales as possible. Fill this up with about 15,000 liters of silage and about 15,000 liters of hay. So we always get a little over because the pouring rate is fast. Actually, I'm very much looking forward to the planting season. This is the first time I'm going to be able to use that 8RX with the exact rate tanks. There are possible plans, depending on how this next season goes, there's possible plans to expand the planters. I may go to Kinsey planter, hauled by our 92 big articulating tractor over there. I haven't really made up my mind. I want to see how the exact rate tanks work before I criticize or try to work anything else out. But for now, we're gonna use the 8RX this year. We're gonna see how that goes with the planter. I guess, like I said, I want to take a look. So obviously, slurry's not a big deal for the brown Swiss. Slurry's not a big deal for that first barn either, or the second one. Okay. So we're in good shape with both of those barns. We won't even haul milk out of there this morning. Milk should be every other or every couple of mornings. Not really something you do every morning. If you have to do it every morning, you've got a big herd, and that's okay. Don't get me wrong. Eventually, you should get to the point where you're hauling milk and either producing large amounts of dairy products, or you're simply selling milk for the amount of money that you're selling it for. I mean, milk's very profitable. I don't think I've ever seen the Robert mixer actually show up in that manner before, by the way. That's kind of cool. It does now. It's not instantaneous when you put these bales in there. So it's kind of cool. I like it. It shows the bale being mixed in. That is not something that I don't know how I'm seeing the mixing ratio working, by the way. That hasn't worked up until now. So I'm happy to see that. Not sad to see that one. We are trying to use up the bales. I think we're going to take a couple loads over to the animal market and just get rid of some of this hay bales. It depends on whether it's depends on how quick we fill. And depending on how quick we fill, we may actually rotate some other crops into all these fields. So the only thing you want to do is just make sure that your silage mix doesn't get overrun by your hay mix. If you just kind of get close with the spikes, you can kind of see that that's almost, it's running 46%, almost 47% hay with a 53% silage mix. So that's right around where we want it. And that's going to be, it's going to be as error-free as you're going to get it. I might as well leave that on. Remember, kids, once you get the diesel engine started, just leave the damn thing on. So we've got 28,000 mixed in here. I like to have hay as a buffer. I don't like to have hay as the primary feed. In real life, you might come across a few farmers that just use a lot of hay, or even use a lot of silage mix. They don't really mix other things into it. Watch my best education point on dairy cattle, especially Holsteins. There's two interesting YouTube channels to follow, and if you're on watching these videos and you like watching YouTube farms, the two best educational farms to get on dietary needs for cattle are going to be 10th Generation Dairymen, which, I mean, anybody who watches that type of YouTube stuff would typically know about 10th Generation Dairymen. And the other one that I like to watch is Gorick Farms. I know that's a really weird name for it, but they're a a Wisconsin dairy operation. They raise Holsteins, and they raise Holsteins and whatever else they get for their herd, to be honest. So there's a mix of like Jerseys, Holsteins, things like that, and they're traditional in the way that they do it. So it's very traditionalistic. And that's something that you find depending on what parts of the country you're in here in the United States, will dictate the types of farms that you run into. Some you'll run into stall barns where they come in, they get hooked to the stall, and they're there for, for however long they need to be in there. And then you get farms like these, where these are freestall. Now, I'd love to have a freestall barn that was a bit more detailed than this, and it's not because there isn't detail. I mean, you've got slats in the floor, you've got the Lely milking machines. It's pretty commonplace in Europe. It's not as commonplace in America. You see pipes going out. But the one thing that happens is when I go to put straw in the barn, the straw only goes in this one square spot. Which is interesting because straw and bedding would typically go into these freestalls because this is where the cows are going to go. Now I can forgive the lack of actual cattle in the barns. I know it takes a lot to get these going. I really wish they'd find a way to make it work with all the cattle actually in the barn. But I'm not gonna bark up that tree and be too mean about it. The other thing is, of course, we're talking about the difference between farm sim details in console versus farm sim details on the computer. Now anybody will tell you farm sim on the computer is 500 times better than farm sim on the console. Console is easily accessible to me. I don't have the money for a PC. I don't even have the money if something happens to a TV. I'd have to shift a TV, one of the other TVs that I have into position here if something happened to the one that I'm using primarily. First world problems, right? So, there is that going on. Um, it's not necessarily easy for the detail. But, as far as dietary needs go for the cows, this is, you can be as realistic as you want about it. You can be as non-realistic as you want about it. It doesn't matter. The game plays the way you want it to play. I will say that as far as the mineral feed goes, I was a little disappointed that really doesn't have. You can see it kind of on the bottom. It's just something that you add to it. Farmers will typically do it in mineral salt blocks, and they'll kind of put them in troughs, and the cows will lick them because they like the salt. But they've got mineral linings into them, so they typically get the minerals into them. It's not necessarily in the feed. There's no molasses, which is kind of a disappointment. There's no toasted soybeans. And granted, I'm sure there's a couple of maps. It's like I know, MRG maps has some maps where cow feeding gets really serious on the computer. And so you get mod maps that are really serious. I like the level of detail here. There's some British farms I know of in real life that literally will just, they'll literally just feed silage. And I would like, I don't know what happened with Farm Sim with this, but I would like Farm Sim to bring back the ability to just put silage in the pens. Because there are some cattle that I would love to have at 100% all the time. And then there would be other groups that I would really love to be healthy, but they don't need to have the extra feed mixes. So I could be getting rid of extra hay, for example. And then if there was too much silage, I could be getting rid of extra silage. In this case, what I have to do right now is I have to feed TMR to everyone. Ooh, that only needs one bale. Put 2 bale in this bike here. As you can see, my hay bales are getting... Okay, that was perfect. I literally could not have asked for a perfect situation. Let's get that hay bale in. And you can see the hay bale's already mixing into the mixer. I like to try to bring it as close to 50-50 as I can. If I can get it like that, 46.4, 53.6, if I can keep the ratios the same day in and day out, that's really kind of all I care about at the end of the day. I would like to reorganize this and get the bale shredder somewhere over there, actually. So we're probably going to do some landscaping to the center. That will be one thing that we can get done in between harvests, just because it will be somewhat easier. Let's go ahead, let's get some feed in. Obviously, like I said, the brown Swiss, we've got another day with them before we really need to worry. I like brown Swiss. I actually think for a cow, they're actually kind of a pretty cow. But you can see 20,000 is almost 3/4 for that pen. So nothing to worry about there. I don't typically put on the John Deere jumpsuit I like to role play a little when I'm playing this now because there's details that weren't there previously, like the clothing and beards and all that other junk. You don't just get to pick from a plaid shirt. Cattle eating. This pen had 21,000 liters left in it. So I like to be able to TMR these pens once a day. That's what I like to see that. Obviously, in real life, you'd probably have feed 2 to 3 times a day in a free stall like this, but we're not going to pay attention to that, obviously. Like I said, there's some things that you can be super realistic about, and other things just aren't in the wheelhouse. So you have to kind of pick what you're going to feel comfortable with in farm sim. You want to play like, say, DJ Go Him. DJ literally plays with everything with fast farming. He literally plays around with all these unrealistic mods. How realistic do you want to go? How much time consumption do you want to have? And how much do you not want to have? So there are a few things that I'm going to be looking at personally. Probably the next couple of weeks to discuss. And the other thing is there are mods that I'm waiting on before I create the next stream and the next farm. There's already ideas kind of buzzing in my head for that. If we have to wait too long, I may go to Calmston Farm, which I already actually have a farm going on Calmston. I've just been playing by myself. But I am going to take a more relaxed tone to the streams for a while. Obviously, it was great to catch up with Mama Duck tonight. She streams on this platform, and she's got a few hundred followers right now, I think. So definitely, if you have a chance, go check her out. She doesn't do farm sim. She does Sims, and she does Phasmophobia. Sounds like she's going to be taking some time off, which I don't remember. But it is Memorial Day weekend, which means I'm pushing the limits of what I can do at this point. It's 11:02. Yeah, you know, I'm doing what I can. My battery is actually almost dead on my phone here, which is what I'm using to actually monitor the chat. Let's get it plugged in. There we go. So I'm plugged in, and we're just going to leave the chat window open because I need to be able to see what I'm doing. But there we go. We've got the Holsteins fed. I normally, wherever I do my last little food mix, or straw mix, depending on what we do last, I always just park the tractor either in the barn or under the awning. You can see the small barn has the awning. Glad I've got a little lawnmower because I'm going to have to come between these rows at some point. So there you go. I keep a cushion of hay in both fields. In both barns. Sorry, not both fields. But yeah, first thing we're going to do today is we're going to go ahead, or the second thing we're going to do today is we're going to go take a look at the hay fields. And then we're going to start planting corn. We will plant the larger of the corn fields first today, which is actually this one right next to the house. We're doing that right next to the farmyard, so if we have any hiccups or anything, we run out of nitrogen real quick, we'll have all the available things right here next door to us. But I want to go ahead and jump in one of our gators here. I actually got a gator out, so we're going to jump into this gator. I'm actually going to just disconnect the trailer right here. We're going to go ahead and go take a look at the hay fields before we start the planting process. It's still only 6:20. I I want to have at least 2 cornfields planted today. Then if we decide to switch over to soybean or anything after that, we'll have that ability to. I'd like to do some soybean just so that we have a straight up crop that we're not processing or anything and we can sell it at its peak price time. Let's just stop. This is the wheat. That is looking good. I didn't roll this, so I'm going to have less of a yield on this. But we primarily harvest the wheat to do straw for bedding. Of course, as we get more cattle into the barn back there, we're going to need more straw. The big thing I wanted to take a look today was the hay fields. So we want to make sure that we are... Yeah, the grass is as ready as it's going to ever be for harvesting. Got 123% yield potential on this field out of 125%. So that's really good. We're going to pull a lot of hay off of this. We have all the applicable equipment to pull hay off of this. So I'm actually looking forward to doing that. Occasionally I just don't think while I'm trying to do this, and that's part of the reason I say words that aren't necessarily the right words, but you can see the growth is fantastic. We got 100% yield potential and expectance out of this, so 89%. 89 and 89, so it matches up. So I've done everything I possibly could to get this field. We have one more hay field to look at, and then we'll be done touring the hay fields. So I want to really get the corn planted, and then I want to get the hay fields dealt with. But I'm also going to take the look at one other thing today that needs to be looked at. I know I said planting corn on stream, yeah, that's important. But the other thing I got to look at, of course, once I get over to the other hay field and just check on it, is I have to see what our weather's going to look like. If the weather looks sunny for today, but not the other 2 days, then I have to take the chance and pull my hay before I pull before I plant the corn in the ground. As long as it gets planted in this month, the growth potential for this month is going to stay right where it needs to. So the hope is that the weather is maybe changing over to rain this afternoon, so that we can't do the hay. And that's just so I stick with what the label says. Obviously, if I don't stick with what the label says, who cares? But somebody might. Somebody might care. Somebody might not. Who knows? I'm going to do what I can, essentially. This is one of the Gator mods that we have. You may have noticed it's not an enclosed cab, but it is a modern John Deere Gator. We actually have the modern and the retro 4x6. Love the 4x6. Can't get enough of the 4x6. I'm actually just going to pull off into here. Now, these fields get manure and they get slurry as their primary fertilizer base. 123% of 125%. So these have good yield potential. They're all ready to go. The last thing we need to take a look at today is the forecast for the day. Okay, so forecast shows clear all day today. It's a little cloudy. You know, I think we're going to cut rows of hay. I think we're going to start the day off by cutting some hay. And, yeah. And that's where we're going to start then. Not necessarily a bad way to start this. We have slurry that will haul down field 29 right here. Another field that we own. I'm actually going to take a quick look at it. There's no data on the soil yet. That's because we haven't started data analyzing. Analysis. There we go. God, I feel so special some days. The way I talk. So we'll go ahead. We'll get the 7R out of storage, and we'll get the Icon mowing decks hooked up to that. That's what we have for it technically. It's the Icon decks. A little different this time, just simply because I didn't want to have to windrow it, ted it. This is Vice Street. So this is so we'll go ahead. We'll start with grass work. I know. I said planting corn, and now I'm doing grass work. You know what? We'll take the 8RX. We'll plant at least one field. It looks like for the first couple of days this month, it just looks like it's cloudy. I don't want to take any chances on it. So I'll take the 8RX and we'll do at least one field before we start doing this way. Let's go ahead. Let's get the gator parked anyway. Obviously, there's gonna be a little work involved with this this particular juggling act. Get through it. You can kind of see the workshop's doing pretty well here. Already got the lawnmower hooked up for when it's time to hit the areas where we're not going to be collecting hay. I like this workshop. It's a little bare bones, but I do actually enjoy this workshop. We'll just leave the door open. We're not going to have to worry about putting diesel in the 8RX. We didn't really use it for anything yet. But let's go ahead. Let's use SID modding and JHG modding's creation. Yeah, 2 modders worked on this project. I really wish I had had something to plant. The exact rate tanks came out, and with the planter, but I haven't had the opportunity since this mod came out to actually use it in tandem, which is really kind of sad to say. Actually, we're going to cut across the lawn here because we need to do a headland, and the best way to do a headland along the road is to go ahead and just get it done. Take a minute to unfold. You can hear all the proper hydraulic noises going through. Okay. While we're doing this, I'm going to get a drink. If my controller disconnects, I'm sorry. I'll be right back. Doesn't look like it's gonna, but we'll see. All right. So yeah, that unfolded a little easier than I thought it was going to. So we're going to go ahead and we'll get it lined up here. Now the advantage we're going to have here today is due to precision farming. We now have the ability to watch the rows get planted in as we put everything else to work. So with the fertilizer being put down at the same time that the seeds are being put down, we're actually going to see it on the mini-map. And that's why I keep the mini-map open. I know some people don't keep all this extra data open and on the screen while they stream. I do because A, I need it because I'm a moron, and B, I like the help that it provides. We go, and the variable seed rate will keep us about as honest as we're gonna be. But we We want to also see the fertilization rate. We're gonna run down to the end of this row, and then we're gonna take a look at everything. 10 miles an hour, that's a good planting speed. You can see the individual arms bouncing over. Very proud of this. This may not be the biggest planter coming up, and I know we've got a case early riser that is going to put a lot of these things to shame. But I do know for a fact that the DB planters that I enjoy from John Deere are also on the list of future projects. Wow, I'm glad we're planting corn and that's what was selected on the planter. That almost ended up being a bad thing. Alright, let's shut down the planter for a moment. Let's go out back and let's make sure that everything's reading. Look at that. Look at that. 123% of 125%. This cornfield, when this fully runs, is going to be insane. I love to plant with these John Deere wing planters. This is no different. I had some, obviously I had to plant the wheat, the winter wheat that we had that's growing right now. That I did with the Seed Hawk mod. I have since gotten rid of the Seed Hawk. I'm gonna just take it down as best we can. We'll probably have to stop it short. Just right down into the ground, and we're going to line it up with the next thing. This is another reason I like to do the headlands on fields like this, is because it'll make it easier when doing back and forth. And you may have noticed that there is a no-till system going on here. We are trying, the goal of this Let's Play, or the goal of this farm in general, is to get ourselves set up so that we are entirely self-sufficient when it comes to energy, heating, and we're running a no-till planting system. So even if it requires plowing, we're environmentally trying to become sustainable without the plowing. Whether or not that pays off is yet to be seen. I can tell you that this particular system is using all the right things. But you may have noticed there's a bunch of weeds in the field. Every time you plant, the field is technically being reset. So all these weeds, if I went and ran a sprayer with the herbicide, with the spot spray, on these fields prior to planting, I would have to come in a month or two from now, and I would have to redo all the herbicide spray. So we're going to get this lined up, and we're just going to get this nook completely taken care of. These are kind of my only complaints about the field. I'm half tempted to turn these little strips back into grass and square up the fields. But let's be real, farmers squeeze every acre they can out of every field, every hectare, every acre. Doesn't matter where you live, it's the same. They're trying to squeeze crop out of every ounce that they can. So we are going to do the same thing here when planting. So I'm not going to square anything up. The thought has crossed my mind a couple of times. But we are not going to square anything up. We're just going to go ahead and we're going to plant according to the dimensions of the field. Kind of hope for the best here. See, luckily our planter isn't going to run anything off of that left side. real life, we'd be planting corn in the grass right now. But for here, we're not doing that. And as much as I'd like to square off and try to do this realistically, this is one of those things that we're doing right now that lacks the realism, if you will. We're taking care of a field that needs to be planted, so we're taking corners. And we wouldn't be doing this if we were actually planting. We'd be doing lines, especially for corn. You plant straight with corn because you need rows, and those rows are what you kind of... Even when you're grinding it up, you still go by the same policy of rows. So this is our silage corn here that we're putting into the ground. Now, to be perfectly honest with you, we may have more than feed corn out of this. We may have some cornmeal we may generate, depending on how many cornfields we put down. But with that being said, I'd like to do some crop rotation. And the ideal crop to rotate out of corn would be soybean. So we'll likely be rotating soybean into these fields next year. And I don't know how long the stream's going to go for. It may go for the entire length or the entire life of the farm as I have it. I may decide to cut it short. I haven't really made up my mind yet on it. Like I mentioned, streaming's kind of a sporadic thing. If for some reason I run into money and maybe a little extra time, which, I mean, haha, nobody's got either one of those right now. But if for some reason I do, I really want to crack on YouTube with some standard YouTube Let's Plays as well. Things that aren't live streamed, that are edited, time-lapsed, all of that stuff, so that you don't sit through 5 hours of me chatting like this and planting, finally getting to the corn after 4 hours. This system is fantastic. We've only used 10% of our fertilizer, and so far it looks like only 18% of the overall amount of our seed, which is good. You can see the seed levels. The variable seed rate are kind of going up and down at the moment, which is exactly what they're supposed to do in accordance with the type of soils that we have planted with it. So it's not like it's doing anything against nature here. It's amazing that we don't have a larger amount of seed going in. And at the same time, you can kind of see from the monitor the zones that we planted already with the corn seed. So. We don't want to back it into that ditch, so even if it takes us a couple of maneuvers, we are going to put ourselves into position here. Putting the 8RX in the field to plant, feed corn. Obviously, it's not the first time that'll happen. It probably won't be the last. You can kind of see I'm running right up on the edge of our other fields. Luckily, this field hasn't been planted, but a patch of the wheat field will come down right next to it. And we've got to really pay attention. And for whatever reason, I can't get that left side wing under control for planting today. See, the variable seed rate has jumped up, so we're starting to pour through a little more of the seed. But this is why we purchased seed and got it boxed and ready. I can at least bring the truck out and bring out the telehandler, the JCB, and I putting a seed into this thing. Fertilizer will be a little more difficult. It won't be super difficult. We've got ways of circumventing that. And that will of course lead to a difference in the way that we operate the field next year. So you can tell the grass from the wheat. The grass has a lighter green to it. You might not be able to tell much on stream. And everybody's screen is different, so that's the only reason I say you may not be able to catch it. There we go. We've got the headland just about done. Planting at 10 miles an hour, that's actually a pretty decent pace to be running with a setup like this. Like I said, these aren't seed hawk widths by any amount of imagination, you know, but these are still good planter widths. Look at that expert dodge. And I don't know, the other reason that I'm not using the ridge markers is I don't know if they'll count as plowing because of the fact that you are technically plowing with it. That's part of the reason I'm not using it. With a no-till farm, you know, like I said, we're going for environmentally sustainable. So even though we're burning diesel, even though we're using, you know, liquid fertilizer, other than the cow barn, it may get to a point where the cows make enough, make enough slurry for me to hit the fields twice over every time. You know, obviously we're going to be making a sustainable farm as well, so we're going to have things like digestate at our disposal as well. So it may come down to we have enough digestate and slurry to go super green with our planting, in which case, you know, I can start taking off the exact rate tank. I can stop taking, the nitrogen tank to the planter here. We'll still have to obviously pay for lime because we still need to be able to bring the pH balance up in the fields. But we're not going to have to go to as extreme lengths to do that. So we've got a few things planned out. I don't know if this week is going to trigger a larger amount of work at work or a lesser amount. Like I said, I have to work Monday, and Monday may be a short day, but Memorial Day, especially in the household where you have a parent who's a veteran, will often, you know, there's a lot of responsibility and need to be on top of your game there. So whether or not I'm in for another stream, probably not. And the fact that I even have these Saturday streams, this is probably not going to be a super regular occurrence. This may actually be the only, on the other hand, this may be the only consistent stream day that I have. So at 11:30, we're dumping seed in the ground. 11:30 Eastern time, I'm dumping seed in the ground and planting everything. You know, we're putting the feed corn in. Whether or not I show like all of the planting, whether or not I show all the harvesting or not, I couldn't tell you really. I know that silage harvests are a real popular thing. I've always pulled in a lot of views when it comes time to do silage. The other thing that I may do is I may leave this for streams and I may continue to play Comsden at a regular level, which I know in some ways sounds really weird, but it's just the way that it goes. And I just came up with a... So we've got $285,000 left. Going to look at potentially planting a couple of smaller fields with sorghum. It's probably going to be more than enough corn to feed the cows. Then again, you never know about that either. Have to forgive me, I am getting a little tired at this point. And that's another problem, is we'll probably be streaming a little more in the daytime than we will at night. And I know Saturdays were really popular for streams during the day. I'm gonna go over those patches. I don't want bald spots on the cornfield. But you know, streams during the day on Saturday were not unusual when I first got started. I'd love to go back to that, but the other thing is the summer season is upon us, and this year I'm not injured. Last year I was laid up, so streaming Farming Simulator 19 every day or every other day was not unusual because I couldn't move around the house. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't watch my kid. I couldn't clean. I couldn't walk, and so it became a literal struggle for me to carry on my everyday. So I definitely have some different things that have to occur this year that didn't really occur last year, and so my schedule will probably be a little more full now that the summer months are upon us, because I'm going to be using a lot of my days off to actually accomplish those. If I can pull one day off a week where I stream, great. Maybe it'll just be a thing where I work through some of the more boring months of the seasons on this, and you kind of see the end result of that by seeing the silage harvests and things like that. I really don't know where I'm at yet on it. Stone Valley is going to throw a wrench into it because I really want to play that map. Probably even more than Frankenmuth, and I'll be honest and say I'm going to do a presentation on Stone Valley through our coffee and hay segments. I think we need to try to get back to a little of that, because that was a segment I enjoyed doing. But the other thing is my creativity and my ability and my base to do that creativity right now is slim to none, because I have to figure out my next steps. And that could be problematic. That could also be real easy. I don't know how well the Streamlabs thing is going to work out. I may have the rest of this weekend to figure that out into next week. I really don't know where I stand on all of that. So we'll have to see kind of where everything's at. Down to 35% seed. I have to say the variable seed rate means the ground that I'm covering, well, it really does work. We'll be able to refuel in field here. See that diesel's starting to get down a little. Gonna have to see the consumption rates on that. I think I have everything set to normal in the menu, but excuse me. This is the primary reason that I love these wing plows. Obviously, there's a lot of stuff in testing right now for modders. Modders are taking the approach of not really talking about stuff that's in testing too much. There's been, because of the fact that the game kind of came out the way it did, and because of the stage that we're really kind of in with it, a big part of it, and I'm stopping the craft for a second. Damage is at 14% on this poor 8RX. How about this? Damage is only at 3%. Wow, what a difference. So let's take a look here. So we're getting some good percentages of yield potential, or expected yield. I think the soil type is what changes a lot of this. And you can see the weeds. The weeds are growing. Yeah. Yield potential 100. You got 99% there. Weeds are growing. And obviously over here, they're large. They need herbicide. Over here, they're growing. You can use a mechanical weeder. We don't use a mechanical weeder for this. For obvious reasons, it's considered tillage. So what will happen is, after we're done planting this, we'll go over it with a roller, which we're going to use the 9220, 9230, whatever the hell model number I got for that. We'll use a roller on the soil and we'll pack the corn seeds down. This is primarily the reason that you want to make a push to do everything as proper as possible. Obviously we've got some mulcher heads for the forage harvester, although I'm getting ready to change the harvester up again. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what that'll do to the money situation. But I think next year we may switch over to the 8,000 model. Probably keep the 9,000 model one more year, and then change over to something different. So anyway, stream management tools are really slim at the moment, obviously, like I was talking about earlier in the stream. Budgetary constraints have really taken away some of those things that you're used to. I'm hoping the Streamlabs stuff works out, but I haven't even begun the process of looking at the Streamlabs stuff, so you'll have to forgive me. I have not had the time in my day to really set up something prime. Have to get the seeds rolling out here pretty soon. Get the JCB out. This is fantastic. I don't feel like I've done much of this sort of thing a lot recently. It's just nice to do something different in farm sim, you know. And everybody feels differently about it. I mean, some people love this, some people hate it. I like the variable seed rates. I love the fertilization rates. Try to get it as precise as possible. Obviously, the yields will vary as we get away from this idea of plowing the fields constantly. If you look through the equipment, obviously I have some plows left. I have some other equipment left that I'm using. But it gets used for contract work. It doesn't typically get used for the other work. So I'm actually gonna use liquid fertilizer is doing really good. That's exactly what precision farming should be doing. Is automatic adjustments per hectare. The idea is you don't want to oversaturate the ground with nitrogen product. So we're actually gonna fold this mare up. And we're gonna bring it over to the yard. And I think after 15 minutes here, I think we're gonna knock off for the night. I think I'm tired enough. I actually want to go to bed myself. Takes a minute for everything to fall in place. I love this planter. I love all the noises I'm getting out of it. That is fantastic. I would get all that. So it looks like they don't go to these exact rate tanks until the rear tank is empty. That's fair enough. So we're going to get our butts over to the seed tender. We'll actually pull what's left there from seeds. We'll actually use this wide open space for this process. Okay, so that's good there. Let's go ahead. Seed on the ground, we do. Okay, so unload here is a really bad idea. There we go. You just gotta find the sweet spot, and even with mods, sweet spot's gonna be a little different with everyone. I think there was 4,000 liters left. So we're just gonna kind of work with what we got there. doesn't bode the best for those. I think we're going to have to make a tender with some fertilizer pallets in between for next planting season. I'm going to leave it as is for this planting season. Stop the craft here. Probably should have stopped this farther into the field. Hopefully we don't hold up traffic too bad. Wouldn't actually want to move forward with these. Extend it out, and it isn't too far. Start up the vacuum system. Off. Everything we can. Ourselves a real chance. I like the variable seed rates. I like the variable levels of liquid fertilizer application that you have up there. Being able to kind of flex saves you money on fertilizer, but B, it also kind of saves the environment by doing this. So a lot of these newer technologies, you know, it really does change the way that the focus is applied on the farm. So if you're not using as much fertilizer, you're potentially saving money that can be used in other areas of the farm. Or maybe it's being used just so you can skirt by. It really does make a difference. I can tell you from personal experience looking at farms that use the newer technology, looking at farms that don't use the newer technology, their fields do look slightly different. And you know, I don't think I've seen a farm up here in Maine. And it could be, like I said, I haven't seen a farm up here in Maine. I don't know if there is any farms up here that are trying it, but the no-till system. You know, we're doing a no-till system on this farm. We want to be environmentally viable. We want to have a big environmental score in the game. Like I'd really like to break the charts and have a great environmental score on this farm. Obviously, like I said, I want to produce my own electricity. I want to produce my own heat and have all those things running as well. And in order to do that, you've got to be doing what we're doing here, which is planting an ass load of corn. You know, we're going to have chaff. We're going to be planting a couple of poplar fields so that we can have a couple of fields where we can run a 4-inch harvester through and chip the poplar up, which is going to be fantastic. I mean, it's really something to play this game and to have goals. And it's like, we've got a large dairy farm. What do large dairy farms do? They consume a lot of energy, and they tend to cause a lot of environmental issues with heavy tillage. Not to say that there are, you know, farmers don't use preventative measures. I'm really not criticizing that. Today's farmer is different than even 20 years ago's farmer when these practices were first put in place to try to save things. Obviously, it's been a slow adoption of practices that are put through in other parts of the region. Um, Methane power, things of that nature are really kind of coming into their own. Just to give you an idea, we don't really have a natural gas grid that can be hooked into plants, power plants, or digesters, if you will. So things like, things like biogas plants, like we have in this. That's a very rare occurrence, actually, in the United States. We don't use the plants like other countries do. It's like Great Britain takes all their leftover spoiled vegetation food and it gets dumped in biogas plants. Those biogas plants are hooked into the grid and they produce the digestate that we use. And that digestate application actually is like 2 applications of something like slurry. So there's less diesel usage when you're out in the field. There's less soil compaction. There's richer fertilizer that does a better job of applying evenly. There's all these things going for it. And just like for that one thing, most of America has not adopted biogas plants. And you ask yourself, you kind of ask yourself why, right? And you go through all this, and you kind of run it through your head, and you realize the American political system is to blame for that, because they allow lobbying of companies to produce funds for these campaigns, and companies that could provide things like renewable energy simply by farming off of the vegetation that spoils, it is not a thing here in the States. Those companies are not paid attention to. Whereas big oil, big fuel, big tobacco, corporate companies like Walmart, they all have lobbyists that help them get through. They don't have enough environmental lobbyists that come with financial backing. If we all, creatures of habit is what humans are. So even if, for example, your habits have an effect on the atmosphere of the planet, and they have an effect on the ozone layer and on environment and global warming, you could not convince anyone in their right mind who makes millions of dollars that switching over to a new thing would be worth the risk, because that change could help things. We're not willing to change unless it directly benefits us and triples our money. So I mean, I'm a human, so I'm easily admitting that there are problems with the system. I'm easily admitting that I am a creature of habit. But I think when it comes to benefiting mankind, I don't think mankind should put up as much of a fight. And we do. We put up a ton of a fight. And these practices through precision farming, I find interesting because, it gives you some insight into what else is going on in the world besides here. A lot of these things that you see with regard to precision farming in this game are brought on by John Deere, who in turn is working with the European Union for renewable energy sources. And better habits for soil, and better habits for fertilizing and all of that. And I like so many of the bad practices that we had that we ignored through the 90s, the 80s, all those decades that we ignored the issue. Even the early 2000s, when farming equipment was getting much larger, um, we were ignoring the obvious issues that would come later because we were reaping the rewards. There was a golden time of farming, and farming, like so many other businesses, can be feast or famine, depending on the price of the market on grains, or the weather one year totally ruining crops. There are so many things that variable and factor in to success and failure when it comes to farming. Just like a lot of other companies, corporations, and practices. And farmers may have not felt like it was, the golden years of farming in the early 2000s. But I think a lot of the culmination of stuff, it's amazing when you look at it from 2005 to 2008, 2009. That's when the real change in this equipment really started to really come out. That's when modernization that we're used to today, typical things of tractors, came out. I've got ridge marker arms on this planter because John Deere still offers it, because their satellites don't always connect to where it needs to properly run these lines. Farmers still to this day buy planters, buy seeders with ridge markers on them because they can't depend on signal strength to get them through a whole field or even a whole planting season when they're out there putting plants into the ground. That is the reality of what we're living in right now. But anyway, to get back to it, I think because of those modernizations and because of how much easier it got, there were a lot of farmers that didn't really realize what the effects of this would be down the road. The penalty alone for what we're dealing with right now with forever chemicals, for example. I live in the state of Maine. A lot of dairy farmers and livestock farmers have started to do water table tests and have found a lot of forever chemicals in the ground. The ground is not good for livestock to drink out of. It's not good for people to drink out of. But those big corporations that sold the chemicals that would keep the weeds down or do whatever else they needed to do never mentioned the price of doing business with them. And so you can't really blame the farmers for that. But it's like I'm reading an article the other day just to give you an idea of environmental impact to farming, because of farming. There are machines that farm fields now that are heavier than the heaviest recorded or the heaviest estimate recording of the largest dinosaurs that ever walked the planet. So there's a couple issues with this, okay? If you look at it from the point of view, we have to look at it from a couple of different angles, right? Number one, DEF, DEF, diesel exhaust fluid, whatever you want to call it, doesn't really work. It's a way to try to filter diesel exhaust and improve the environmental impact. And they've programmed engines to cut the horsepower when this goes down to try to cut emissions further. It doesn't work. It's nonsense. It's an overpriced fluid to force on the consumer in the United States. So there really isn't a good way to push it further, right? I mean, the diesel stinks. Obviously, it's there because there is some sort of impact, but because of the type of equipment that farmers are using, you're not going to see a large application use of it for a while. People are still going to go to the older diesel engines to get the power and the dependence that they need. There's dependability differences. Obviously, the whole nitrogen versus uh, phosphorus in your soil, keeping pH balances, keeping nitrogen balances, keeping hard minerals out of the soil, getting the right balance. Obviously, that's taken the forefront. Dietitians, going on farms and having a dietitian that comes in and takes samples of your feed. That's a great practice. Excuse me. That's a great practice. But anyway, the environmental impact on big machines like that, the amount of diesel fuel that they consume, the amount of emissions that they have, the amount of soil compaction on soil is insane. Now, I love some of these big machines. Some of these big machines make me feel like a kid in a toy store, right? Because I'm an enthusiast for agricultural equipment and practices. And I grew up, in the 90s and in the early 2000s. Those were the ages in which I was coming of age. I'm in my mid 30s. So all of these practices that were thought to be safe, thought to be sustainable, ended up being the exact opposite of safe and sustainable, and caused problems to this day. And the bigger the equipment, sure, the better the job, or the quicker the job can get done, but it's not necessarily going to be better. Because all of a sudden your farm can't sustain crop numbers because you're putting chemicals in the ground you never intended. Or maybe you're spending more money on fuel, which means you have less money for quality seed or quality fertilizer. If you have to cheaping out can be a risk in and of itself. And it's a risk that farmers are willing to take because they have to keep their families fed and they have to keep their businesses above board, will be the phrase I'll use for that. So you have all these things that really do affect these big farms, and the problems aren't being addressed. How do we address the fact that these vehicles are getting larger and larger because there are no laborers? People don't want to work on farms anymore. If somebody could literally pay me slightly more than what I make right now, excuse me, and provide me with benefits, I would work on a farm in an instant. I don't care how backbreaking the work is. I don't care how sore I'd be at the end of the day, because I've wanted nothing more in my life than to work on a farm. Is that a realistic expectation, though? Can a farmer really afford in this day and age, never mind, previously, but can a farmer afford in this day and age to provide health insurance to his farmhands and a livable wage? Honestly, I think it depends on the farm. I think it depends on the type of farming that you're doing, because farmers have shown that depending on the type of farm you have, depending on the size, you can have a workforce, including yourself, of 2 to 3 laborers and have enough people to get the job done. Typically, you're diving into your family for this, admittedly so. To any of you farmers out there who don't have family who want to commit to the farm business, obviously you understand the pain that the one group of people you depend on won't or can't, for some reason, help. And I won't say won't very often, because I feel like farmers' families tend to be really tight-knit, and they tend to be motivated to help. And because, in a lot of cases, they're either the only workforce, and they're guaranteed that they don't have to go outside of the house for employment, or the farm is so large, if they didn't help, they'd be putting their parents or uncles or whatever into a real bind. becomes a question of like how much of a bind are you willing to put your family through by not helping on the family farm? Do you care to elaborate on that finding or this finding? So I think there's a Anyway, I think there's a lot that could be just like observed from the current state of affairs in farming, just because it is that's farming. This is what's going on in day-to-day lives with farming. Here's what's going on without farming. Every time I come across a farmer driving on the roads with, say, the tractor or with a truck, the plates say farm, I try to show my appreciation. I try to say hi. I try to say thank you. Because your hard work is the reason my kid has food on the table. And maybe it doesn't impact. Maybe it doesn't impact, every kid exactly the same. But if it wasn't for the farmers that we have working out in those fields, working those long hours, going without holidays, we wouldn't have anything here. Let's say, farmers neglected here, so there's extra strain on farmers in the Midwest to produce more milk, more cheese, more grains, more corn. Things that we can produce here. More potatoes. Potatoes are becoming a crop that's increasingly more and more difficult to get the right yields out of. I don't feel like sugar beets necessarily are. Anybody else seeing the fact that those row? Wow, those are not touching the ground. Okay, don't look extra close at that. Always amazes me when we're looking at detailed machines and something just isn't detailed like it's supposed to. But if we didn't have the production back here in the state of Maine, there would be things that we would lack here, and there would be strain put on other farms in other states or other regions of the United States to produce and to come up with enough all of a sudden for their people as well as for our people. And we're seeing supply chain issues that are very much like that with baby formula right now. That's a real good one to look at. One factory goes down and the whole U.S. goes into panic mode. And rightly so. We're now getting baby formula from military transports from Germany. Things that make you go, okay, when were you guys gonna go over that? So there really are a lot of different issues that affect so many different people. And we never take the time to really think about it, And it's sad. I like the awareness that Farming Simulator gives to some of that. But at the same time, it's like people need to wake up. People need to show their appreciation. People need to take the time to thank the farmers that never take a holiday, because they're a dying breed. We're gonna end up going to factory farming. We're already seeing examples of this in places like China, where these dairy farms, sure, they feed the cows like they feed the cows back here. They milk the cows, very similar to the way they milk the cows back here, but there are thousands of dairy cows per farm. It's set up in factory districts. There's concrete everywhere. There's no pastures. There's no ways of getting back to normal. It is just the same junk all the time. And it's going to be a problem. So if you live in a rural area, buy from the farm stands. Appreciate the farmers, wave at them while they're on the tractors, let them understand that just because they're in the road, just because they're taking up space, does not mean that you think of them as the bad guy. Don't be angry at them for doing their job. You know, people don't get angry for you doing your job unless you're the type of person that works customer assistance, you know, customer service reps. I can't say that anybody appreciates a debt collector. But there's a lot of missed opportunities out there currently within the states to really make a change for the better. You know, obviously the cost of inflation has really kind of put a hamper on things. Farmers are trying other methods so they don't burn as much diesel right now. It's really kind of crazy. Listen to me. Listen to me. I'm rambling on. I'm rambling on. I'm playing Farm Sim, and I'm absolutely going crazy with my conversation topics here. Well, look at this. The first field of corn. This is the first time I've used the 8RX with this exact rate tank. I'm not sure if it's even tapped into the exact rate tank yet, which is great because I've still got another field to go. And wow, we've used less than 50% of our fertilizer. And as you can see, the field is in... Field's great, so it needs rolling. Obviously, we've got that covered. We've got a tractor for rolling. So we're actually going to get that out. I am going to call this... It's now just short before quarter after. I'm going to call this at 12:30 tonight. So we got another 15 minutes to go. We're going to go ahead. We're going to pull the roller out. We'll get to starting the rolling on this field. I have to remember it takes a moment for those other pistons to kick in. I love it. It's realistic. It's to the point. The tractor's a little grubby, but that's okay. It's supposed to be dirty, right? Get out here. So these yield potentials are looking really good. You've got spots where you've got 123%. You've got spots at 99%. So we're probably going to be pulling green off this field. But again, this is silage, so we want a thick, heavy field. We'll probably plant all corn. We'll see how much of that bunk we can fill. I'm actually going to leave the spots there. I feel like I'm an idiot, but... says the target nitrogen has been reached here. I don't think... Like, let's take a look at precision farming real quick. Let's see. So pH can be oversaturated. What can... Okay, so in reality, what we're seeing is we're seeing different amounts. So at 120 kilograms, that's actually on the lighter scale of nitrogen. Okay. Some of this stuff I'm really good with, some of this stuff I'm not super good with. You can see here this orange, that's because we've put a layer down of, yeah. We've put a layer of slurry down on this whole field. I think we did just a regular sprayer on that. And then, of course, in this far field, we did a sprayer on that as well. There's a patch down there. But the yields are going to be really good on the grass here. I want to take a few minutes and play around with the roller. I love how those deer symbols on the exact rate tanks come out. The deer logo comes out that are covered in dirt. I don't know if the shadows were ever taken care of properly. This is an early detailed mod. I like this so far. I don't like the fact that the mod requires the pallets to fill the fertilizer. That's a little ridiculous. I have to use pallets for the exact rate tank as well as for the tank on the back of this. That doesn't sit well with me, but then again, what can you do about it, you know? That's how these tanks are. A lime, we have 14,000 liters left in the tank. That's pretty good. We'll extract fertilizer out using our sprayer here. This can take directly out of the silo and then offload it as pallets. So we're gonna do it that way. It's got a herbicide in there right now, which is okay. It's supposed to have herbicide. But let's go get the big tractor. Oh, snow machine. By the way, if you're gonna play Frankenmuth, and you're gonna play with seasons turned down and with snow turned down, do yourself a favor and get yourself set up with a snow machine and get yourself set up with a snow. So we're just gonna put the vertical tillage tool, aka the disc. Do that right now. Roller is rather large. How about Mega Roll is actually in the name of this implement? So nobody tries to hide what the implement is. Its size, its reason for existing. It's just known as the Mega Roll. I wasn't aware, to my embarrassment, on just how much field rolling I've always based my knowledge, obviously, on my experiences. And that's something that human beings do. So, obviously, we do that sort of thing all the time. But because you base your experiences... excuse me. Because you base your experiences on what you know, knowledge can sometimes be... Oh, this is going to be even better. Look at that. So I like what that's going to do because that's going to allow me to see where I've rolled and where I haven't rolled. I will say that rolling, a lot of people make a fuss over the rolling seeded material. The only thing that you have to do is you have to look at how sharp the lines are in comparison to how they would normally be. So if the lines aren't as sharp in a field that you're rolling, you haven't gone over it with the roller yet. That's how I typically determine that. It's a nice tractor. SID modding is what I use a lot of my John Deere mainstream type of tractors. Obviously, there's a couple other modders that I use their stuff with. So not to worry. I don't keep it to one specific modder. I just favor certain modders, if you will. I think everybody does that in Farm Sim, though. You have a modder that you know what they're gonna give before they give it. It's like custom modding. I know a lot of people don't like to listen about custom modding. There's actually some sort of feud, I think, between him and Sid, from the way that I've heard some exchanges before, or read some exchanges, I should say, over Facebook. It kind of seems like Sid is much not a fan. But I enjoy custom modding a lot. I think custom modding is just great stuff out there. And in fact, he has details on mods that even Sid doesn't have. And I think Sid's got some of the best mod details out there. I mean, Sid's got the, just to give you an example, the Combine John Deere X9. He's the creator of a modded variant of that. He's the only one on the market that had the mod for FS19 on Mod Hub. I'm speaking strictly Mod Hub. I'm not talking about third-party sites. So please forgive me. I'm not saying he's the only one out there ever. The only one on Mod Hub who has an X9 Combine. The X9 Combine alarm goes off when the tank is close to full. When you turn on any of his tractors, they do the loading screen. And there's a plethora of things. Oh my goodness, I am so sorry. I'm getting close to the end of my day. I really am. So the fact that I'm like yawning all the time, I apologize. I'm not used to streaming this late when I do decide to jump on and do a stream. But, you know, there's a plethora of just options. Even for these articulating four-wheel drive options, even though Giants have kind of clumped them together and said that they're basically the same mod, there are some subtle differences to each one. And there are different options to each one as well. You know, it's not as simple as some of the stuff that Giants has said. Now, of course, as far as tractors go and as far as combines and placeables go, everybody's got a preference on their modders. And you may be the type that absolutely dislikes Sid. My only regret in life is being so limited financially that I can't help support these guys on Patreon. When I see like a project going through for Sid and he's working, you know, 30, 40 hours a week on the mod, knowing that he has a job, knowing that he has a family, you feel really bad that you can't help at least financially to kind of assist with those mods or kind of assist with the you know, the Patreon subscriptions. Before my wife got done work, because of, you know, suffering long-term neurological effects of COVID infection, I was looking at doing some Patreon subscriptions on a couple of my modders that I use everything with. Unfortunately, the moment you become restricted in your ability to spend money, you have to be very careful. You can't just subscribe to a bunch of extra things. So I have a few things that I can spend money on. Unfortunately, a modder isn't one. And mods, I know the argument goes mods should always be free. You shouldn't have to pay for mods, but these modders that are doing it, if you enjoy their stuff, you should contribute as best you can on Patreon. This kind of an added, now you know sort of scenario. Because, you know, without Sid, it's like this John Deere would not be running the field. I'd be running a base game Versatile if it wasn't for modders. But at the same time, it's like when you work 40 to 50 hours a week and you finally have time to play Farm Sim, do you want to play with the vehicles that you want, or do you want to play with the vehicles that are available to you? Some people don't care as long as they get to play. I have to have vehicles that I really want to play with. So big John Deere tractors, planters. Obviously, this is a John Deere farm, so I can't say so much, but it's like we have the Robert food mixer because somebody made that brand available. Which, by the way, I'm really glad that they made that available in FS19 so that we could bring the brand on. There are a bunch of smaller Brazilian brands coming on, thanks to people like Hispano Modding that are doing what they can. I love that. You get an indent every once in a while when you don't make contact with the rollers. That's what happened there, so I'll have to take that from another angle. Got a little dip there in a drain. It's kind of interesting. I haven't seen anything that indicates that it floods when it rains. We're not doing a Stone Valley thing here. And that's the other thing is you'll feel... I always feel more motivated to help people, or modders in particular, that have really kind of provided something unique to me. And I think that some of these modders, you know, obviously some of these modders are rip-off artists. I don't have a difficulty with Giant's current multiple of the same mod acceptance bit. What I have a problem with is when there's evidence of theft. You know, how long is it going to take? You know, now with the new policy, how long is it going to take for Giant? Sorry about that. You know, now that they have that new policy in place, how long is it going to take Giants to legitimately respond to a complaint about a stolen mod? You know, it's like, my mod was stolen. I need you to stop the distribution of this right away. This is my asset. I didn't give permission for it. You know, how long is it going to take Giants to actually trace the code, see if it is in fact a copy of another person's mod, and put it down in the mod hub? It didn't take them long before. I'm not complaining about response time. I feel like they've always been extremely responsive. I haven't necessarily always appreciated what they've done to some of the creators on the community. But Mod Hub seems like a less drama-filled place now that it's like, well, yes, that person did release this mod, but you have the opportunity to release a mod with some better perks to it. Yeah, sure, it gets old. There are always some mods that get old really quick, but it's like we've got how many versions of the case? Puma now, I think it is. And I'm not just saying it because I'm a John Deere guy. I think there's too many. I think there's too many 6M mods out there, for example. I don't have... If you look at my list of mods, I think I actually took the 6M and the 6R completely out because I'm tired of it. You know, you get... One modder offers you a 3-point linkage on the front of the sucker and all this extra stuff, and the other modder is just like, well, we'll give you a weight set, and we'll let you pick one of like 5 colors. It's like, so that guy was giving me more options for in the field work. Well, you're giving me more cosmetic options, you know. And then it's like, why are we splitting? You know, why is it acceptable that because this guy has different cosmetic mods, we can now get away with, you know, these other mods? So it's a real battleground right now. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna be interested to see how well that mod hub does over the next few weeks, because we're still waiting on, or at least I'm waiting on things like the STS combine, 9400 through 9600 combines, I think. Earlier model John Deere's, like mid-2000 model John Deere combines. We're waiting on Stone Valley. Lancy Boy continues to put improvements in on that map. likelihood is we won't be affected by that one for at least another month. Maybe it'll be out in time for the Kubota DLC, I think. Um, but I'll be interested to kind of see what they do as far as any other patches that they might put in place between now and June the 28th. Because that's really going to kind of dictate how the rest of the summer goes. Because I think after the Kubota stuff comes out, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see that the content comes to almost a stall directly out of Giants. Giants may prove me wrong on this. You never really know where you're going to land with Giants on these sorts of things. So it may be something completely different. It may not. It's hard to tell. All right, so I've got the 9620, absolutely grubby, just the way I like it. I have to spray that grill as soon as we bring it into the farmyard to park it. But as you can see, the rolling does a number. Not sure how much, they had to put an update through recently to make sure that mulching and rolling would in fact have an input or an impact on yield. Not really sure how that's going to have an impact. I can see the 125% yield areas are now, instead of 123 of 125%, they're actually at 125%. So it's expected to get the max yield through these sections of the field. That may partially have to do with the soil type in this field. It may not. But as you can see, it's now 12:31 a.m. I've been rambling on for the last 45 minutes, I think. And I've really been enjoying myself tonight, which is what I set out to do. I hope you've really enjoyed yourself. I hope whoever's watching or paying attention really enjoyed themselves. I think that's gonna do it for us tonight. So, that is Frankenmuth in a nutshell. That's Frankenmuth as of April 1st in-game month. We've got a ×3 clock on it, which is enough to see our first field planted, and we've started the process of rolling this field. I may or may not just postpone the planting till I can get you guys back on the Xbox for another round. On the other hand, I may just continue doing the small work to kind of relax over the next few days. I'm not playing much for any other games. I'm playing a little Cyberpunk right now. Hate to mention that. I feel like people either like it or they curse it. But as you can see, we've got some decent equipment in the shop right now. Not a whole lot is going on. We just got things out and about. So by the time we get back, we'll probably have some equipment to fix. We'll probably have some equipment to wash off, which is why we've got these lovely hoses. And hopefully we'll be cutting some hay. I'd like to actually do that process and have people in to see the first cuts of hay come in, but you never know what might come down, and we only have 3 days to get the seeds really planted for soybean and for corn. I don't want to postpone that too long, so that's kind of gonna be the focus of the next couple of streams. So guys, I'd just like to thank you so much. I'm gonna try to get on the computer tomorrow evening and do uploads of the last 2 Frankenmuth videos that we've done. I feel very comfortable with them. I feel very much like myself in Farm Sim again. It's not exactly a one-for-one transition to 19, but it is definitely a step in the right direction. And we'll talk, we'll have a good time, and we'll figure some stuff out. So thanks again for coming on. Obviously, there's no fancy screens or tiles for me to put up for thanks for watching or anything like that. But please do come back. You see another live stream, come on, have a good time. If you're not subscribed to the channel, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe to my channel, or to follow me on my channel, I should say. not subscribe, but to follow. I am trying to get up to 50 followers so we can do a little more. And hopefully, within the next few weeks, I can figure out if Streamlabs will cost me any money or whether the registration is free. So, thanks again, guys. That was Frankenmuth. That was corn planting. And I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Memorial Day weekend.